Hi there, this is Kirby Scofield, Scofield Realty, and today what we're going to discuss is the life and the process of an escrow. A lot of times what you do, and the hardest thing to do in most of the nation right now, especially in Vegas, is getting your offer accepted. It's first finding that home and finding the home that you can become mutual agreements with the seller, and you guys come to an execute contract and you go into escrow. Then a lot of things for buyers though is, what the heck is the escrow process? What actually happens? What do I do next? How do I just get the keys and I just want to close on my house? I just want to go move in and put my furniture and start renovating, do whatever you want to do to it. So one thing with Nevada is for that agreement, and I'm also a broker in California, it's the same as it has to take mutual agreement. You have to have fully execute contracts. So buyer and seller, you make an agreement for that contract, it's fully executed, and then you put up financial consideration, which is your earnest money deposit. Once earnest money deposit goes in, that solidifies it as a full contract. Escrow's open with that earnest money with the escrow and title company, and then your processes of your contract start. Now, a big thing with that is a lot of times you'll put dates on your contract of these certain contingencies that we're going to discuss, but they start from the day that's executed. So if you get an accepted offer on a Friday, for example, and then escrow isn't open till Monday because that's when escrow's back in office, your contingencies and your contractual timelines, unless otherwise stated in the contract, started from that Friday. So if you, for our first one we're going to talk about is due diligence. If you have a due diligence period of 10 days, you're already 3 days into your 10 days by that time hits. So it's very imperative that you make sure that you know all your contractual timelines. Ones that we'll discuss, there's due diligence, there's appraisal, if you're doing a loan, and loan contingency. Those are two separate ones. You have your walkthrough. You have a period of time that you, if it's in an HOA, NRS 645 is our it's legal code out here for it, which in Nevada revised statute 645 dash something. What that is, though, is your time period that you get to review the HOA documents once received. I'll go into that. And then seller real property disclosure, which is required by every seller by law to provide to you, which is there any known defects, etc., to the home currently when they sell it to you. And you have a reconveyance on that. So first is due diligence. So due diligence is the one period that when you are buying the house, it's really your one out that is in control of you as a buyer. And the seller, a lot of times, we will wait on that side of it until we get past due diligence, because everything else, as far as if it's appraisal, loan, HOA, anything, that's third party control. Whereas the due diligence is you get it, you get the buyer's remorse, and you're like, you know what, I just don't like the color now, or I don't like the neighborhood, or I don't like where the kids would go to school, or whatever. It's all your choice. That's the one that's fully choice. But also during that time period is when you want to do your home inspection. That's when you do all your inspections. Now, most homes in Vegas, you're just going to do a regular home inspection with an inspector. They're going to go and review the items such as HVAC, plumbing, electrical, structure, roof. Plumbing includes stuff outside too, like any siphon valve, stuff like that with your sprinklers. In that time period, now what you have the right to do is do a request for repairs. In a seller's market like this, make sure that request for repairs is only for items that need to be fixed per like a loan, because when we switch to more of a buyer's market, different on request repairs, you have more negotiating ground. Right now, with multiple people offering on the same house, a lot of them, they're going to say sold as is. But it's still, if they're offering it and you're buying it with a loan, it still has to have certain things working: HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and the roof has to be solid. Especially FHA, there's certain guidelines of how long or how much life is left in it. And you can't have like exposed wires, you can't have an HVAC or heater not working, you can't have plumbing leaking, you can't have like a cracked shower. So your home inspection report you'll pay for, you'll get that, and then you request the repairs. Now with our contract, what we want to make sure is say it was a 10-day. Normal is 5 to 10, 15 days for due diligence, depending on, again, this is negotiating with other offers and what you're competing against. But if it's a regular, normal, 10 days. And so with that 10 days, though, say you get accepted on a Friday, you want to have that inspector already lined up and hired within a couple days and that they get out there because they're going to go do their report. That takes them about a day. You have a right to go sit there with them as they do the inspection. Honestly, coach, not to, because you want them to get their job done, not be distracted. If you distract them and they miss something, because then they have another inspection later, you want to make sure their whole time is focused on that home. And then they will give you, the reports are pretty in depth, like 50 pages sometimes, that they will pick out everything and anything. Now, as a buyer, what I coach is that inspector also has to cover themselves. So you're going to see stuff on a brand new home, even brand new build. It's going to say for drainage, for example, like the shower and how it drains. Have a licensed plumber check this. It was a little slow. They'll have certain stuff like that to cover them for insurance reasons. The reality is what you're looking for is, hey, that heater or AC isn't working. There's wires exposed or a breaker not working. The GFIs aren't working. He noticed something on the ceiling roof or past moisture damage that we didn't see. He notices something with electrical when he's testing little sockets. Like there's so many different things. That's what you're looking for to get fixed. And on your request for repairs. If you're buying as is cash, that's as is cash. You'd place that in your offer. So it's up to you on inspection. But a regular thing, that's what you do. Now, with our contract, what you want to do is when you get to that 10 days, give yourself a notice about 2 days before. That's what we teach our agents to do too, is they give a notice to themselves and to the client. And the reason why is you have to, per our local contracts here, is either waive, accept, or get your request for repairs executed back from the other side. So what that means is it's on the 8th day, you finally get a report, what you need to get fixed, you send it to the seller. Say the 10th day is today, by 5 p.m. you need that response. You either by 5 p.m. have to cancel the contract to be able to receive your EMD back, or get a request for repair sent back to you that states, hey, yeah, we'll fix this, or we'll agree to fix that, or we agree to what you asked. Or 3, you waive it per our contract. So what that means, if you don't respond by that 10th day, you don't get a response and you haven't sent the cancellation, then you're waiving your due diligence. You can't ask for this request for repairs the next day, tomorrow. It's already per contract waived. So it's very imperative to make sure that your dates are hitting within time. Second that we'd have is appraisal. Appraisal here we do between 17 and 25 days, depending on what's going on with appraisals. For a bit during the summer, we got backed up. We had to do long time periods just because it's a third party and we couldn't control that. They couldn't get out there for 2 weeks minimum, where normally you can get out there in a week. And so your realtor and lender will know that, what's going on, and advise correctly on that to make sure that you're not getting a timeline and then they can't even get the appraiser out there in time. Appraisal guideline, what happens with that is, we'll just make math easier. $500,000 house that appraises for 500 grand or above, you're good. They're just going to say it came in at value or came in above, all good. But say it comes in 490. Same thing as due diligence. By that day that's up, so say it was 20 days on the contract, on the appraisal. On that 20th day, you want to, and you've already got the appraisal back, you want to make sure that you've either canceled and or negotiate the price back down, if you can, or you're waiving it. And then the appraisal's out, you can't get out on it, and it goes to the next contingency that we'll go to. Now, in a seller's market, it's hard because they have lots of backup offers. Once we get a little bit more inventory, you'll have the ability to negotiate. So if someone's, and especially once we shift our market a little, you're going to see a lot of sellers who are still on that high road of price, and the appraiser's sticking where they're at. And so that 10 grand difference, what you'll go to then is, hey, like say you're the only offer, then you're just telling me, hey, I'll pay you $490, and you see what they come back with. Or you guys split the difference. It goes $495, and buyer then is paying $5 grand over appraisal. So what that means though is that's $5,000 out of your pocket on top. So you got to add that into your like closing cost. It's extra money you got to pay on top. If you're paying that, then you move on to the next thing, which is loan contingency. But if you don't get a response back and you couldn't pay the difference, so seller saying no, you got to pay $490 or $500, and you're a buyer and you don't have that 10 grand difference because they got 5 backup offers, you gotta send your cancellation then. Otherwise, you waive it. If you send the cancellation, then you'll have a chance with a mutual agreement to cancel and get your earnest money back at that point. You'll be out your, at that point, inspection money. So no on due diligence. You buy inspection 250, 500 bucks, whatever it is. That's a buyer cost usually, and those funds you don't get back. So unless you negotiate that up front. So if you end up canceling, that's your cost. Appraisal, $400, $600, same thing. Ends up not coming appraised at the value that you wanted, or you can't come to terms with the seller on an agreement like that. That's a cost you lose once you cancel. Any of these items, though, on a contingency in our contracts, for you to get your earnest money back, takes a mutual agreement. So just because you send that cancellation in doesn't mean they agree. If at any time there's no agreement, seller saying no, I don't believe you, you're saying no, I'm doing it within the contract, we have the contract, if you do it within those timelines, showing that the buyer performed. It would go in mediation with our local board. If it wasn't met at that, up to $10,000, it doesn't be injuncticated. If it be injuncticated, it's over 10 grand, then they go arbitration and or court. Still has to take mutual agreement. So no, as a buyer and agents out there, just because you cancel and you perform within the time frames that you're supposed to doesn't mean it's guaranteed the seller's going to sign off on it. Most of the time they do, but some don't. If you're canceling because of appraisal, include a copy of the appraisal and why. Next would be loan contingency. That's 21, 25 days. That one is you're going to get final approval for loan from your lender. Not conditions, or they'll have conditions, but not pre-approval, not pre-qualified. Like the final approval is what you want. That they're saying, here's your final approval from your lender, and here's your conditions. We need an updated pay stub, we need updated this, we need this from your boss, or whatever. That loan contingency, once you sign off on that, then you move forward to closing. But we had some where DTI, debt to income ratio, too high. They can't, IRS issue, something with self-employed and a past tax thing. Same thing as other contingencies. Make sure that you've canceled or asked for extension is another thing you do before that date of that contingency ends. If you get a loan denial for some reason, which is unfortunate, but we can't control it. You can't control it. You don't know until you get to that far. Make sure that you just send your denial letter with your cancellation of contract based off that contingency. If you don't by the time frame, it's waived, and your earnest money is kind of up in the air except for a couple of items I'll discuss. So make sure you get all those. Once you get past, so you have due diligence, appraisal, loan contingency. Next you have walkthrough. Now the property, how you view it on the day that you're viewing it, like seeing it on your showing, is the way it should look later. I had one during the REO days where closing day we go, all the copper was ripped out of the walls. House was toast. We had to cancel because of walkthrough. They got the earnest money back. The house had to be sold as cash. Couldn't do a loan on it because the bank decided then to do that. So walkthrough, it's got to look the same as it was. Walkthrough is a big one. We usually do 3 days before, but I tell my agents, if you're closing on a Monday, don't go on a Friday, because what happens if someone vandalizes a house Saturday or Sunday? If you're closing on a Monday, get there early in the morning before the title office and check, make sure the house, because once a house closes, as a buyer, it finally records, that's the big key word you're looking for. It's recorded with the county. It's yours. And that's your kind of last stitch to make sure that everything's as you offered on. That if there's any repairs that were going to be done from the home inspection. So no, you do a home inspection, you have your due diligence, you say, hey, you got to fix the AC. We just had one today. You got to fix this electrical. Per our repair request, they say, yes, I'm going to fix that, but they have to close the escrow. So that's when you verify that it's been fixed. The other thing you may have is appraisal conditions. Going to the next one. Water heater straps, HVAC issues, anything like that. Same thing. That's where you're verifying that it's done on your walkthrough. The only other outs you have other than walkthrough prior to those contingencies is your CIC HOA resale receipt, which is within 2 days. They have to order it within 10 to 15 days per the contract. You have to receive it as a buyer. And so no, your realtor has no idea the HOA unless they live in it and they can tell you personal experience. You get a whole package: CC&Rs, covenants, all these big words, uh, uh, the rules and regulations, the financials, all that stuff. Once you receive that by NRS 645, you have 5 days to review it, and you can cancel off that if you see something you don't like in the HOA. Same thing, SRPD, seller real property disclosure. You have up to 5 days usually that they have to give that to you, and then you have 10 days off of it by reconveyance by the state document. So no, those are a couple. So with all this stuff, and it's a lot of stuff, just know once you go in escrow. So to conclude, once you go in escrow, that was the fun part, finding the house. Then the game starts until you get those keys. Once we're recorded. With that, what I would do is make sure that you have one of our agents helping you and guiding you along the way, and making sure that all those dates are set up in your calendar, that you guys are before them, you're performing as a buyer, and that we are advising you correctly on the certain items when things pop up, because they do. It's an escrow. There's no easy escrow. Even new homes have issues. So with that, please reach out to, if you're getting this email, it's because one of my team members is helping you or has been assigned to you. Please ask them any and all questions. And if they have any further questions, they'll get the answer from us, or we'll call the appropriate people. Kirby Scofield, Scofield Realty. Have a great year. Thank you.